Harpslingers, welcome to the Harpslinger podcast, where each and every week we hang out with the greatest harmonica players in the music business. If you're watching this on the Hohner Music Facebook page, there's a chat at the bottom of the live stream. I always encourage you to share that chat. Share it with your friends. Send it to whomever you think might be interested in hearing from these great harmonica players. And if you haven't already gone to the Harpslinger YouTube channel, you can check out our entire back catalog there. I believe we're up to about 30 episodes now. In fact, I think this marks our 30th episode, and I'm really excited because we have a fresh new face on the scene, a newcomer, and let's just introduce him now. My next guest is a Richmond, Virginia native who took up harmonica at the age of 20. In roughly 10 short years, he's already been featured in a number of noteworthy publications and magazines, including Living Blues, Blues Blast, and Soul Bag. He's a Hohner Harmonica endorsee and a recent Blues Music Award nominee for Best Emerging Artist Album. Without further ado, please make him welcome, everybody. Andrew Alli, how you feeling, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I want to say thank you so much for being on the show. It's great to have you. I'm honored to have you. And we got a lot to talk about. I mean, you've got a new record out. You've got some nominations for some awards. You've gotten a lot of great publicity. We're going to talk about all of that stuff, including I want to talk about your songwriting and vocals and all of that kind of stuff. So maybe we start at the beginning. I mentioned you're from Richmond, Virginia. That's where I'm assuming that's where you grew up. And, everybody's got a story, right, with their harmonica. About how it found them, how they found it, whatever. It's always seems special to me. And I'm just curious, what was your circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was almost kind of completely just, I don't know, you can call it serendipity or whatever, but so basically, I've always been a music guy. I've always been an appreciator of music even before I started playing harp. I grew up with a family that, they'd be blasting, Motown and soul and gospel and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But no one really played instruments in my family. I have three sisters and they all sang, did a lot of like sort of entertaining stuff, but no real instruments in the family. So I went to college here in Richmond at VCU, and it wasn't until college that I picked up harp. I remember I was just kind of there was a little farmer's market right downtown, and I'm just there hanging out, and I remember seeing there was a busker, I think the guy was kind of traveling through town, and he was playing some harmonica, and I don't know what it was, something this like, really intrigued me about that sound, and it just seemed like a really cool thing. So I approached the guy and just started asking him questions and stuff. And I don't know, I was just inspired at that point. I was like, man, like, I really like this sound. And, up until that point, I never thought I could, I could be a musician. It's like when it's like that easy of a decision. So when I realized that day, I rode my bicycle over to the music store and picked up a little like, $5 harmonica. And even from day one, it was just cool to feel like I was a musician. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing,
Right.
but when you hold that harmonica and you start making notes out of it, it was just like a whole new world started to open up to me. And I was just so excited. So for me early on, I was like, okay, if I'm going to pick up an instrument, I want to try to do it, as right as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And, so what I said, I was like, okay, so if I'm doing the harmonica thing, I gotta look at the history of this instrument. I gotta really
Wow.
see the roots of this music,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out, what's going on. Cause, until you figure out how the people, behind you were doing it, you can't move forward. So, and that's really where I fell in love with, the blues harp stuff, so, early on I was kind of poking around in different sort of genres, any sort of harmonica I could hear.
Yeah.
But once I started hearing all the the blues legends, man, I was like, that's it. I don't need to play anything else. Like blues is cool with me.
Right.
I just, and then I just, I ran with it. I was just so in.
Isn't it amazing how I believe in maybe it's called energy or vibration or something. I think, I think it's been proven that we're all made up of that, right? Vibrations and how they speak to us individually and differently. Certain music appeals to certain people, right? It makes them feel a certain thing. But harmonica players, we can all sort of attest to this because we're harp players, but something about that vibration, when we heard it the right way at the right moment, it like made it a long lasting effect on I think on our being.
Absolutely.
It changes us.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want to get real deep on it, like with vibration, one thing I sort of feel, it's like when you have that physical resonance
Mm.
playing through you and those notes, the way they hit me especially, it's just like, man, it's like it really feels like some sort of connection just with those notes, and it was kind of like a soothing feeling to me, physically, but also just like mentally. It was kind of an escape that I didn't even realize I needed.
Yeah.
Up to that point, I didn't have like that release until I started playing blues harp, and yeah, I don't know. I think back now, and I don't know how I got around without harmonica or the blues. Really, it's like it's such an integral part of my life now
Hmm.
that I could never see my life without it.
Right. Right. I feel you on that, man. So, are you self-taught?
Yeah, I mean, I started listening to, just all the, my big inspirations, Big Walter, Little Walter, both Sonny Boys,
Hmm.
Junior Wells. But as I dug even deeper, like, I'm really a big fan of like Nat Riddles, a
Yeah.
little later, who also lived in Richmond for a while.
Really? Okay.
Um,
Now he's got a connection with um, Adam Gusso, right?
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. I think they were running around together for a bit, and
Yeah.
I just it just seemed like such a cool community of people. And harp players they're relatively rare in the world of musicians in general, right? It's like
Right.
there's tons of guitarists, there's tons of drummers, whatever, but harmonica players are relatively rare. So like I feel like it's like kind of like a tight knit community, and to be part of that, kind of I just felt cool to
Y-
be
Yeah. 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 Have you been to
guys.
Spa? Have you checked out Spa?
Yeah, I've been to a couple. So I went to the one uh, that was in Virginia Beach years back.
Uh huh.
And then I also went to one. It was crazy how this one worked out. The one in Dallas, and at this point, I was playing. I was on a tour with a couple other local Richmond musicians, and we played in Australia.
Nice.
And right after the tour ended, Spa started,
Uh huh.
and just out of pure coincidence, talk about energy, man. Our return flight back had a layover in Dallas the day before it started. So I was able to basically extend my layover for a week
Nice.
in Dallas to hang out at the spa and then head home. So, it's just like stuff like that. It's like, man, like what are the odds of these things working out?
Yeah.
So I feel like, you put that energy out and it kind of reciprocates,
It
man.
kind of lets you know you're on the right path, right? I think that's
Exactly.
very strange
Exactly.
too, but I'm a believer in that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, so you mentioned, a lot of your heroes. A lot of us can relate. We all share a lot of those. Clearly, a lot of those same heroes. Those were the greats. I'm just curious. Anybody from the more present times that inspire you as well?
Oh, I mean, like, the modern play. I mean, all the I don't know the guys running around. I mean, I love Dennis Grinling's playing. I'm a big Kim Wilson fan. I love Mark Hummel.
Hmm.
All those guys. I love. I just heard recently. He's more known for guitar, but I hadn't heard Marquise Knox's uh, harmonica playing is awesome.
Okay.
Uh, he's great. Ronnie Shellist
Yeah.
is a big inspiration for me.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, the list goes on. Nick Clark is an amazing player.
Yeah.
Aki Kumar,
Hmm.
all those guys. They just have such a unique sound, and they're also just great guys. Didn't you just have Hank Shreve on
Yeah.
recently?
Hank Shreve was on.
Great player. There's so many guys out there, and the cool thing about it is, you can really hear each person's style. It's pretty rare that you're going to hear a harmonica player that sounds exactly like someone else. Because it's like an extension of your voice. When I think of
Oh,
a player like Sonny Boy 2, Rice Miller, he played like he sang.
Hmm.
And no one else, it's like
Right.
you can try to recreate it, and you can learn all the subtleties of his playing, but you're never going to play exactly like him.
Right.
And that's what I think, that's what's cool about the instrument, is that it's very like unique to yourself.
Totally. It's something I think we all need to embrace, that we have this natural, God given sort of tone or sound that is
Right.
totally distinct to us. I've told the story before, but it's worth sharing again. I had the pleasure of meeting Carrie Bell in New York City at Chicago Blues Club in downtown, a number of years before he passed away. And I actually sat in with him that night, and I spoke to him on the break, and I said, how do I sound like you? And he goes, man, do you look like me? And I was like, well, no, I don't look like you. And he's like, well, you're never going to sound like me, man, because he goes, we're all shaped different. We all look different. You got to find your sound.
Right.
And I thought that was like the most inspiring thing. It was actually like a hall pass, kind of like, oh, I don't have to
Right.
go out and sound like, if I was a guitar player, I don't have to go out and sound like Eddie Van Halen, or I don't have to go out and
Right.
sing like Little Walter. I can sound like me, of course, learning from those guys, but embracing my own voice, right?
Right. Well, and there's nothing wrong with learning from, I mean, because these guys, when I think of like the legends, they were the best. I mean, in my opinion, it's like, as far as really mastering
Mm-hmm.
the the instrument. So it's okay to learn the technicalities and the phrasing and all of that from everyone else. But yeah, at some point you have to be happy with your sound,
Yeah.
and I think that's enough. I think it takes time in order for you to become happy with it, or realize that you're never going to sound like someone else.
Right. Right.
So I mean, even me, it's like, it took me a while to realize that, like, oh no, like I have to go for my sound, and and be comfortable with that. And then looking back, I see how my sound has evolved, and and it's going to still evolve. Like, your sound always changes, but just being sort of comfortable with where you are, and and the sound that you're making, I think, is important.
Absolutely. I've read a number of interviews with you and seen a couple of clips on YouTube, and I noticed that you're a tongue blocker, primarily a tongue blocker. Do you do any lip pursing, or are you just 100%?
I'm like, I say 99% tongue blocking. Sometimes, I find myself, when I'm playing, like, the one hole blow or draw,
Yeah.
I'll pucker in that
Uh-huh.
instance, but everything else is tongue blocking.
Right on. I remember when I got my first harmonicas as a kid. Inside the box, there would be this little thing you could unfold, and it would like show the diagram of where the tongue goes, and that lasted with me for like 30 seconds. I was like, this is so confusing, and like
Yeah.
I've done all my life, I just throw the directions away, sort of jump in. So I became a lip purser. But you were talking about your sound, and everyone finding their sound, and you attribute some of your tone and sound to being a tongue blocker. And I just wanted to know if you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I early on, I started as a lip purser, and you know, it very soon I realized, when I was trying to, basically imitate the sounds of the guys I liked, that I wasn't getting it. And then, I do a little research and realize that, oh, tongue blocking is how they were doing it.
Yeah.
So, I want to say, I don't know how long in I was, but maybe a year or so in, and I forced myself to make that switch. And I just remember, I can remember sitting on the front porch where I was, just kind of like forcing myself to figure out how to play that single note tongue blocked.
Yeah.
And it probably took me, I focused probably a good hard week on, like, just trying to get that single note. And then one day it just clicked.
Uh-huh.
And then once I really started getting a grasp of it, I was just so happy, because it opens up so many windows. Like, I feel like there aren't too many things that you can do um, lip purse that you can't do tongue blocked.
Hmm.
Now, vice versa, you can't do everything lip pursing that you can do tongue blocking, right?
Right.
So I don't think there are too many downsides, personally, to tongue blocking. As far as, like, being able to hit those octaves quickly,
Yeah.
all that percussive stuff.
Yep.
You know, there's no downside, in my opinion, and I think that's how they designed the harmonica to be played.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a big advocate for tongue blocking. When I teach
Hmm.
lessons, even for beginners, I'll start off a person that's never played a harp before tongue blocking, because if
Yeah.
you start off that way, it's a little bit easier than trying to make the switch down the road.
Absolutely. Yes. So in recent years I've had to to achieve those things that you were talking about, octaves and percussive things. I've definitely integrated the tongue blocking into my playing. But it was a bit of a challenge, but I'm sure glad I did it. I'm not exclusive by any stretch to that. Most of the time I'm pursing, but yeah, you're right. It does add a lot to your playing. And the tone changes.
Tone changes. I think, a lot of people say, the more mouth you have over the harp,
Yeah.
the richer it is. And I think there's truth to that, because you're amateur or whatever. Like it's all about how like your mouth and your jaw kind of sits over the harp, and
Mhm.
all those little changes can affect the tone. So at the least, it's something to be aware of, to know that you can change those things in your mouth to change the tone, whether you're tongue blocking or lip pursing.
Right.
Just knowing that you have variety within the tone just by the little changes in your mouth.
Yeah. Right on. So at what point did you you left your bedroom or the porch or wherever you were practicing to when did you start playing with bands and getting out and playing live in the club scene, and at what point did that happen and how did that all come about?
Yeah, so for a long time, in early college, my first gigs were playing, front stoops at house parties. You know what I mean? That was like my thing. I just bring
Right.
my harp out
Yeah.
and, you know, and just hopes people liked it. I think I was starting to make a little bit of sound, within a year or two, tolerable sound.
Right.
But yeah, so I was just playing for fun for the most part, and then I would hop in on if someone had a guitar or something, I'd try to jam with them. But it wasn't until uh, I at one point I reached out just on Craigslist, locally to
Yeah.
find. I was like, where are the other harmonica players in Richmond? And this one guy responded, and real nice guy, and sort of hit it off. And he's a great musician, great harmonica player, plays guitar, plays bass, all this stuff.
Mhm.
But anyway, he was like, "Hey man, you need to come out to this Friday night jam at this jazz spot downtown." And you know, he was like, that's where all the blues guys are.
Right.
So this place is called Emilio's,
Okay.
and every Friday night they would, they had a house band and they had live jazz, but then around midnight they would switch to blues, and the local legend Lady E would come in rolling in her red sports car at midnight.
Nice.
And Lady E is she's just got she's a just uh, a storm, of energy when she comes in, and she just commands the band for a couple hours. But you should have people come in and sit in with the band. So that's the first time I had the experience of playing out with the band. And I don't know, I do remember just being so nervous, and it's like you got to get your chops. You got to learn how to play with other musicians, and I learned a lot from doing that. I went there, almost every Friday for a good while after that first one.
Hmm.
And then from there, I met a lot of other musicians, and that's kind of where it evolved into me starting, my first band.
Right on. And what was the name of your first band?
Yeah, the first official band of my band, I would say is Andrew Ali and Last Night's Blues Band,
Okay.
sort of paying tribute to Little Walters Last Night.
Yeah.
I did sit in with a couple other bands before that, but that was just kind of doing real small sideman work sort of
Right.
stuff.
Right. And now you're
But
with
that was
your own group, the Main Line.
right. So that sort of evolved into the main line.
Okay.
The name just sort of switched at some point.
So before COVID, what you were doing a good bit of touring, I assume, right? You mentioned
Yeah,
you've been to
yeah. Honestly,
Australia.
last year would have been a very busy year. I was slated to go um, to France and all the and just a lot of festivals around the country, and then obviously they all got canceled. So slowly starting to get little things here and there. Just you know it'll come back. I'm not trying to like rush back into it just because I want to make sure everything's safe and all of that. But uh, yeah, I certainly miss like the
Yeah.
just just touring and just playing festivals and all that.
Yeah, it's part of our blood. It's part of our DNA now, right? It's like it's hard. Oof, it's rough.
It's crazy, yeah. But I think it was a good year to reflect and just do some more woodshedding and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know I think a lot of good music is going to come out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And you think back at any time there's like any sort of big event or a big struggle, there's always like a sort of renaissance after it, and I think that's what's going to
Right.
happen.
I'm hoping it's all positive and spiritual. Uh, not religious necessarily, but
Right.
spiritual, right? Like we all just
Yeah.
coming together in peace and love and harmony, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping for. I think the '60s had a lot of that, and I think we've been going through something very similar these last number of years. And you're right, it's going to spawn some wonderful music. So I can't wait to hear it. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Me
Uh,
too.
so back to the Europe thing. I wanted to see. So you'd been to Australia, and
Yeah.
what was the? I've never been to Australia. What was that like?
Oh man, it's beautiful. So this I connected with a couple other local musicians years back. I forget. At least it's got to be at least 10 years ago now. Um, this guy named Tim Barry and
Mhm.
Josh Small.
Yeah.
And this is another sort of the serendipitous situation where I kind of met both of those guys at a chance as I was riding my bike to work, and they were playing a little show in a local park.
Nice.
And you know, I tell the story as like as most harp players, especially early on, you can't hold back. And like they were playing some blues,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was playing like the 44 blues or something, and I had a harp on me, and I just started playing. Just like
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. But fortunately, they were like, "Who's playing?" They dug my sound, and
Yeah.
next thing I know, I'm playing the rest of the set with them. And then Tim's like, "Hey man, I'm starting a East Coast tour next weekend. You want to come?" And just like that, we hit it off. And I've been playing with Tim and Josh ever since then. But mostly with Josh. Josh and I have been doing a lot of duo work,
Hmm.
and are still playing. But yeah, anyway, so he did a tour down in Australia, and we did that. All the big cities around the coast, Sydney, Newcastle, Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne.
Nice.
It was amazing, really beautiful, great people. We did a tour in Europe as well together. So
Nice.
it was just, I mean, this it was just so crazy how that all came together, and just really good people. And just from playing harmonica, I was,
Yeah.
I've been able to travel the world. It's just
It's
feel
insane. It's
blessed.
wonderful, right?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So and it's just all because of that random guy I saw in the farmers market that one day.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's yeah, to look back, it's almost like you can see the story how it unfolds, but at the time you're like, sort of wandering through this thing unwittingly, right? But
Right,
I think if I do believe that if you're on the right path, these things just sort of come to you.
right.
And they've clearly been coming to you. In fact, you have a new record out, and you have a record label. I'm curious. So, at what point, touring with the duo that you toured with and through Europe, at what point did you decide, I want to write a record and record a record and maybe even get a record deal? How did all of that sort of enter your mind, and what were the steps that I'm interested to know what the steps were that you took to get your deal and to get your music out there.
Yeah, I mean, so early on, I guess. So the first, I'd say, official recording I did was, so there's a local label in Richmond called Elder Soul Records. That's who
Mhm.
I'm with actually,
Uh-huh.
and they're blues and jazz, you know, uh, record label. And some years back, the manager of the label reached out to me because we had crossed paths. He's actually a harp player himself, Keith Owens, and he said, "Hey, we're doing this compilation tribute record for to pay homage to Big Walter. And Big Walter is one of my biggest influences.
Right.
I just love his playing. I just love his style, everything. It's just he's been probably the biggest inspiration to my playing.
Right.
Uh, but he's like, hey, we're doing this this tribute album. Do you want to cut a couple tracks on it? I'm like, of course I do. This is it's just like I have to pay homage to this man.
Right.
So it was, yeah. So that was great. I cut a couple songs from that, and yeah, I was just real happy with it. It was just a good fun project. Some other great harmonica players are on it. But I think from that point on, we kind of developed that relationship, and I had been writing up to that point, but it took me maybe another couple years to really get serious about the writing. I was gigging out and stuff, and at that point playing a lot of covers, and I had a couple originals, but not enough to cut a record with. So I really put the time into to start writing more. And so I ended up going into the studio and recording with the guys out in Bristol, Virginia, the Big Tone Records guys. They had just recently moved from California to Virginia, because I had reached out to, so Big John Atkinson runs that label, that recording studio, and we tried to connect when I had gone out to California just to kind of see what the scene was out there for a bit, and we didn't end up connecting. But anyway, just out of chance, he ends up moving to Virginia because he had some family here and moving the studio. So I made a session and ended up playing with those guys and recording the first record down in Bristol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's talk about your songwriting, actually. So, at some point, I think as artists, if we want to make records, we are faced with the realization that we need to write some songs, So what's your process like? Or do you write alone? Do you do any co-writing? Do you do a little both?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for the most part, I've at least I write the bones of a song alone, and then I think different songs have come to me different ways. Sometimes it might be the lyrics or like a situation that sort of inspires it. Other times it's like the groove, or so it's not always the same process, but yeah, so I usually come to I'll come to the band or whatever with this with the lyrics and maybe an idea of the groove, and then we kind of piece it together instrumentation wise and all that, and get the arrangement right. But
nice.
If it's like a lyric driven song, I'll have all the lyrics done ahead of time, and then it's just a matter of putting in the groove and getting all the parts right.
Do you come in singing a melody? Is that your
yeah, so I mean, if I could play you on my phone, I have a million like voice memos of little ideas and little riffs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of pull from that, I just kind of catalog all my ideas and stuff in there, and then just piece it together at the end for a song.
Right.
But yeah, it's different for every song. I try to be like open to all the different inspirations and all of that for songwriting. And I will say one thing that I realized when the pandemic hit is, I guess when I'm gigging a lot and playing shows, that in itself was kind of like inspiration to write new stuff, because I'm out and about and seeing people and all of that, and being cooped up in the house. You'd think that if you're in the house all day, you'd have more inspiration, but for me, it was like doing stuff. Being out, gigging and meeting people and stuff. That was my big inspiration. So I kind of look forward to getting back into that, because that will help me write some more stuff too.
I can so relate to that. I would have thought I was I've written a number of tunes. I was writing pretty steadily for a few months right after the COVID thing sort of sprung on us, and then I just sort of succumbed to this. I guess a lack of inspiration. Not out playing. Just listening to the radio or Spotify or something and blowing harp. I just wasn't in the mood anymore to write songs. So I'm with you, man. I'm looking forward to getting back out there, and hopefully it'll start showering us again. The music gods hopefully will start.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna come back strong. I think it's got to be ready when it comes and hits hard. So
yeah, I feel you. Well, let's talk about your vocals. I'm also a vocalist, and I love the way you sing. You very soulful voice. You sound like you've been singing a long time. You know, your sisters sang. You mentioned, so it's in the family, right? So you grew up with people singing around you, and
Yeah, yeah, I did. All my sisters, particularly my older sister, she's an actress, but she also did a lot of like, plays and musicals and stuff, growing
yeah,
up. So she sang a lot. My mom sings, my little sisters, so I dabbled in singing a little bit, especially back in high school. I actually did a couple musicals and stuff. And then also, uh,
what music
I grew
did you do? You got to share.
huh?
What musicals did you do?
Oh man, I was in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Really? That's a great one, right? That's a great one.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah.
What else was I in? I can't remember. Um, but even before that, I grew up. I had done a little brief stint in the gospel choir when I was going to church. As a younger kid.
Yeah.
But then coming out of high school, I didn't really start singing again until I started playing harp
Mm-hmm.
because obviously all the songs I enjoyed, you can't just play the harp part, you got to sing too. And when once I heard Little Walter and all these guys, that's kind of what inspired me to take my singing more seriously.
Yeah, yeah. It's a whole other instrument, right? I mean, it's like it takes some
Absolutely,
effort, right?
it does, and you got to exercise it, you got to practice, just like harmonica.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something it took me a while to take as serious as I did harmonica, because I just love playing harp so much that I'm guilty of not at times putting as much time into my singing. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, especially recently, I've been trying to focus more on my singing, because it's so important. Because as a musician, it's like you can be just a harp player, or you can be like a musician. And I feel like once you can do more than just one thing is when you become a true musician, and you provide more, whether it's in a band or a duo or whatever. Being
Mhm.
able to front a band, all that stuff is just as important as playing harp. So that's also been a learning process.
Yeah, man. Well, just like harmonica, I have my favorite harp players that I never get tired of hearing. I also have, a kind of a short list of my favorite vocalists as well that I always sort of retreat back to for inspiration and for to get me inspired. Who are some of your favorite singers?
Oh man, uh, I'm a huge Big Bill Brunzi fan. I love his singing style and his playing, everything. He's if I were to pick one, this blues musician, he's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Lonnie Johnson's also another
Okay.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
favorite of mine.
Sure.
Let's see. I love Willie Nix's sound, his voice. You know, I didn't I heard his singing with the side work that Big Walter did for him, and I love he had kind of a higher voice, but I just loved his style. I don't know. Beyond that, I mean, uh,
You're listening to a lot of genres, I'm sure, not just blues. Yeah.
I mean, shoot, I mean, I love Sam Cooke and Stevie Wonder and
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
all the classic guys. I
Hmm.
don't know. One thing as a musician, when I became a musician, I think I developed a more sensitive ear,
Hmm.
and I just have an appreciation just for all types of music. When I hear something that I can't do,
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and
Yeah.
it's been you kind of look at music in a different lens when you become a musician yourself. So that's something I just listen. I'll listen to psychedelic, you know, alternative, whatever one day, and then
Yeah.
blues the other day. I'll listen to old bebop.
Mhm.
I love it all.
Yeah, and I think all of that somehow informs what we're playing. It sort of finds its way, seeps through the cracks, and comes out somehow,
Yeah,
a little bit.
I
You
think so.
mentioned Stevie Wonder, well, of course, one of everyone's favorite singers, also one of the great chromatic harmonic players. You also, you not just a diatonic player, you also play chromatic as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I'd say my chromatic playing is rooted more in it's in traditional blues. I'm a big George Smith fan.
Hmm.
I love his style, so I think he's inspired my chromatic playing a lot. Um, and I don't know, yeah, that's something I've been putting a little bit more time into as well because it's a whole different beast.
Right?
And
It's
it's
daunting.
almost, yeah, but that's why I like it. It's just completely different. It's got just the way it reacts, everything. It's just like you have to come at it differently than a diatonic, and I like that challenge. So that's something I'm still working on, still exploring, and
Yeah.
I look forward to cutting more stuff on the chromatic for sure.
Yeah, right on. Are you playing mostly like third position stuff on the
Yeah,
chromatic?
I'd say for the most part, I've also been messing around with some first position chromatic stuff, and I like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
So
Super
yeah, we'll
melodic,
see.
right?
Huh?
Super melodic, the first position stuff.
Yeah, super melodic, and I like this. There's some cool like sort of runs, some cool like sort of chromatic runs and stuff, and you can mess around with. But yeah, the first position, I remember a while back, I was sort of tackling. I was trying to learn some like more horn line stuff,
Hmm.
and I'm a big Earl Bostic fan.
Okay.
Horn player, and I learned a couple of his tunes on chromatic first position, and it was just cool to kind of have a different perspective on how to play the chromatic and kind of how you would phrase uh, a horn lick over a chromatic because obviously it's not a linear instrument like the horn is in a sense. You're it's more striated, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
uh, so it's cool to it's like you have your own interpretation of those licks and all
Yeah.
that.
Right on. Well, you recently have become, or I think it's recently, have become a Hohner Harmonica endorsee. Welcome to the family. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I like shoot. I mean, this can be a plug. I love Hohner harps, man. Like I've been playing them
Me
since
too.
day one, and I've tried. Like I really, I went through other harps and everything, and for the style that I like to play, I just love the way they respond. And I usually play this Marine bands or Marine Band Deluxes. Like those are my deal,
Hmm.
and it's just the way they respond and just I don't know. They're just the deal for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just get the job done, no frills, whatever, and they just yeah, they've been good to me.
Yeah. I feel the same. What models do you play other than or have you tried any of the others? Like I've been playing the crossover. I really like the
Right.
crossover.
Yeah. So I mean, I've gone through the gambit really. So I mean, I started off. I want to say that before I even knew like what types of harps to get. With them playing style, I had a bunch of golden melodies early on.
Yeah, I love the
Then
golden
I went.
melody. What's your take
Then
on
I
the golden melody? That's a unique harmonica. More, it's a
It is. I mean, and it's very, it's very, it's
melodic.
meant for melodies. But
Yeah.
I was playing those. I didn't know, I was playing, I played some of the MS series,
Uh-huh.
and then I got into the crossovers, and but yeah, once I really started playing Marine bands and Marine Band Deluxes, I kind of settled in with those. So
Yeah.
I'd say Marine Band Deluxes are like my go-to,
Okay.
gig harp.
Straight out of the box, or are you having these worked
Mainly
on?
straight out of the box. I've gotten some work done from like Joe Falisco on some harps, and they play. I mean, it's crazy how well they play. Um, but I'd say for the most part, I play out of the box Marine Band, Marine Band Deluxes, and they usually do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something I always say, and it's probably not like a good way to look at it, but each harmonica coming out of the box, I feel like has its own little things, little,
Yeah.
and it's like I kind of like the idea of figuring out what that harp needs, whether it be like that reed just needs a little bit more or a little less,
Yeah.
because I think what that does is it sort of makes you become a more aware player, of the harmonica and like really know like how little or how much you're playing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's nothing like a nicely tuned
Yeah.
gapped,
Right.
you know, you know, uh, instrument that just plays well, very little effort. And that's really the big thing. All the greats, man, it's like it, they made a big sound, but they were masters of subtlety, and it's like you can get good sound and good tone and good volume without playing your head off.
Hmm.
It's about knowing the constraints of the instrument and being able to like work within those, not playing beyond that.
Right on. Well, sort of along those lines, let's talk a little bit about your choice of gear. What when you're playing a live and maybe even in the studio, that's maybe a different approach. I don't know. Uh, are you straight into a vocal mic guy? Are you a bullet through a tube amp guy? Pedals? What's your bag?
Yeah, I mean, I love playing acoustically. I love playing, through a classic crystal or a ceramic or whatever. I love both. I really am a big fan of acoustic playing. I like using my hands to mold sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends on kind of what sound I'm going for, or what kind of arrangement I'm playing in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I find when I play in the duo, I play more acoustic.
Yeah.
Although I've been playing a little more amplified recently, just on a little small harp,
Mm-hmm.
small amp. But yeah, when I'm playing, a bigger gig, I'll play through with just a classic crystal JT30, or I'm a big biscuit mic fan as well. I got some biscuits.
Oh,
I
okay.
like the feel of them,
Yeah. Okay.
guys. And yeah, I know I got a few little amps. Let's see, I've been playing through a Princeton reverb recently, and I really like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That's something, I'm always exploring different tones and
Mm-hmm.
different amps. Uh, it all depends on the size of the gig and all of that. But I try not to be too picky with that stuff, because that's a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to get as good of tone as I can out of what I got.
Right. Right. Yeah. And when you're touring, especially through Europe and stuff, I mean, you can't really carry an amp with you. So,
Right, right. They'll provide you with what they got, and usually they got a lot of you might be able to get a nice basement out there if you're playing a big thing, or
yeah.
a deluxe or whatever.
Right.
So it's more about knowing how those amps are going to react and how to play through them.
How to dial it in, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right on.
yeah.
How about pedals? Are you using any pedals, delay or reverb or any sort of?
I guess you could call me a purist. I don't own a pedal.
Okay.
I don't. I think yeah, the reverb I'm getting from like the Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put in a little bit, but I tend to not put in much. I kind of like the sound of just
Yeah.
I feel like you're getting a lot of good tone and a lot of good breakup just from the mic through that wire down to that whatever tube amp you're playing through is usually enough for me. But I'd be open to exploring other sounds. Again,
Maybe.
maybe a little delay or something. But
Sure.
up until this point, it's been pretty simple setup.
Nice. Nice. So tell us about. I guess your plans were a little thwarted with this new record, promoting this new record because of COVID.
Yeah.
Uh, wh- what's your plan of attack for coming back and getting this? I mean, you're getting some heat with this record. I mean, I mentioned the publications that have interviewed you already. I know you've been on the news in your area, um, and you've got this great Blues Music Award nomination. Which congratulations, by the way. That's huge.
Yeah, it's
That's a
quite a
huge
surprise,
thing.
man. It's yeah, it feels good. I'm excited. It's just cool. I just um, I'll take the accolade, and I'm just happy people dig the record, because I put a lot of heart into it, and
Hmm.
you hope people dig it, and you just put it out there, and it is what it is.
Yeah. And I'm super impressed that you wrote like 9 of the songs on the record. I just think that's always so dope. I mean,
Yeah,
it's really you.
yeah,
It's your record.
yeah. That was really important to me. I think I love playing a good cover and all of that, and
Right.
but I think at some point you just kind of have to do your own thing, just like we were talking about with playing. You can't try to be someone else forever, so you gotta make your own sound. So
Right.
I think that's gonna continue that theme of originals, and with the next album when it comes out. So
Are you working on your next album already?
Work early stage. I'm still in the writing process for that. But yeah, getting ideas together for that. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'm hoping maybe definitely by the end of the year have it recorded and all of that, and we'll see exactly when it comes out. But
Wonderful.
yeah,
That's fantastic, man. So tell everybody where they can find you online. What's your website address is?
yeah, it's Andrew Ali ALLI RVA. It stands for Richmond, Virginia. Andrew Ali RVA.com.
Nice.
Uh,
And
I
you're
got
also on social
Facebook.
network, right?
Yeah, and Instagram. You can just search my name and everything just pops up right on Google there. But yeah, I'm pretty easy to reach. You
Yeah.
can give me a call. You can, I don't know, come by my come by the porch sometime.
Nice, nice, man. Yeah, that's where I play. I sit out on the porch and play all the time. My neighbors
And
must think I'm crazy, but that's what got to do it.
it's that's an important place for me, and that's really where I talk about woodshedding. I should call it porching because that's where I really put my time in. Especially early on, just trying to
Yeah.
get my chops up, and it's I don't know, it's just a nice place to like decompress, and then also kind of have interactions with the neighbors and all of that.
Mhm.
It's a special place for me.
Nice. Well, man, it's been a real pleasure for me to get to know you a little bit and to meet you. I'm a fan already, and
Oh, thanks, Sam.
yeah, just excited for your future. And it looks like you have a bright one on the horizon. So kudos to you, my friend. And as I always say, because I love hanging out with harp players. This is sort of a guilty pleasure for me. I get to do this in conjunction with Hohner, and that's fun and really cool. But I love getting to spend time with other harmonica players. It's so inspiring to me, and you inspired me today, man. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We got
Absolutely.
to get you back on the show.
Anytime. This is fun. I mean, I don't know. I could talk harp and music all day myself. So,
Nice.
yeah, appreciate you having me. And yeah, we'll do it again soon.
Right on, dude. Until then, peace, love, and harmony to you, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. All right. Take
Awesome.
care, man.